Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. We don't need
Glad to be here, bro.
We'll get the show started.
Hard in the paint, baby. I thought I heard somebody in my apartment, and so I went into kung fu mode, crept in, looking around. Thought I seen shadows moving, right? When the shadows stopped moving, I went and closed my door, right? About 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the door, and I turned around. I'm like, what is that? Took me 2 minutes to get to the door. And my neighbor was sitting there and said, hey, brother, I think you left your keys in the door. Later on, he was down by the pool, and I went down there with him, and we both had our guitars. And I said, hey, man, I got a show called Hard to Paint, man. I think, I want you to come on and play that guitar with me, right? And he said, okay, cool, I'm with that. Later on, I found out that his name was Molly Music. Grammy Award winning Molly Music is on Hard in the Paint today. What's cracking, ladies?
Showtime, what's good, man?
How you doing, man?
It's a blessing to be here.
Man, imagine that, man. We sitting there, and you standing there as humble as you was, like, brother, you left your keys in the door.
Yeah, man.
And it leads to this.
Bro, those are the important moments, and like, it's everything about what you just said. It leads to this.
Right.
That's what's most important to me, because it wasn't about the Grammys. It wasn't about known or celebrity or no type of song. It's just about who I am as a person on 2 feet. And if I had done that, I would have wanted somebody to help me out. So I'm grateful that it led to that, because I never would have been as connected to you as I am, or as inspired as I have been able to be by your story, your incline. And look what you got going on, man.
And this is all, for real, this is all due to the universal forces, whatever name we want to call it. If you want to refer to it as masculine or feminine, whatever it is you want to refer to it, okay, I'm good with that. I have another designation for it. That's good. If people say God, that's what it is. So let's start this off. So now, you're how many years old when you actually get started in music?
All right, are you gonna believe me?
Of course I'm gonna believe you. That's why we sitting here. You're not on Hard in the Paint for nothing.
Man, because like through the years, I just have a realistic story and then the one that actually is. But 5, it didn't take long at all. My mother was extremely musical, and she, tapped in early that, it was gonna be music and rhythm that I learned stuff with. So that's when I started just really holding notes and singing or whatever. Anything we was watching on TV, I might tune up to the pitch of it, and it'll be on old video cameras, and my mom would say, that boy, he's special with it. And it would lead to one thing to the next, all the way to here.
And so getting you here, when was the first time that you actually looked in the mirror and said, I think I can make a career out of what I'm doing?
Wow. Realistically, late. Like, I had to have been maybe 16. That's when I released my first album.
And what was the name of that album?
The Second Coming.
The Second Coming. And what's the theme in that?
All right.
From a 16-year-old perspective.
Yeah, bro.
Right, the Second Coming. So talk to us. What's the theme behind the Second Coming from a 16-year-old perspective, understood now as a person in his mid-30s?
It's a totally different thing. I would have so much to say to myself that I know I wouldn't believe until or unless I live the life that I've been able to.
Right.
Based on the things that my gift has been able to make room for. Because there's so many talented people. Like, my gifts and skill sets and blessings have caused me to be able to be in rooms where you are with the stars and you really, really know what your light is. Because, man, it's different, So I was grateful for those experiences, and it just kind of was forged off. So the Second Coming was completely based off Christian and biblical beliefs, which was my main and primary outlet musically, my life, my reasoning, my being. It was my motivation to sing. It wasn't like necessarily girls. My mom would probably just cut that off. And then any instrument was inside of a church.
Right.
If you wanted a piano or organ, drums, or any type of thing like that, as a young black male, where else do you go beside a chorus? So that's kind of dictated the songs that I was singing, because I couldn't be singing R&B songs inside of the church, so worship became a part of what I was. And that's what made what I was doing profound to people young, because I was a young boy singing worship songs, getting worship concepts, and that's what caused me to be able to tap into more, because the Word of God was already written. So I had an endless book of content to be able to explore with my own mind, and the Second Coming was just based on, like, the first album that I did was called The Coming. And that was like 5 songs that I had on MySpace. But Mr. Dell came to like a rehearsal. He got called by my mom the group 3-6 Mafia had this like big hip hop deal because they was busting right at that time. But I was like really making some noise independent at home online and didn't know it. And a few members were killed tragically, maybe by 2 or 3 of them. It startled Mr. Dale, who was one of the remaining members, and he was definitely shook, and he looked to Christ. He looked to just trying to find out what was going on because it seemed like there was a daunting, like grim reaper coming for the members of the group. And that would lead him on a path to meet me, you know, this young, you know, energetic Christian sound maker, you know, and he got a mainstream record deal hitched onto their hip hop reach. So my first album, which was primarily like gospel, produced by me and all the stuff that I was making, once I get into my story young, that's how I was in Walmart on my first album. Because like it was like a connection on something, and I was also branded as hip hop and R&B as the genre of the music because it was under their record deal.
Right.
So it's been a blessing, man, and a whole just sense of coincidences,
And
bro.
having that type of access to a broader audience.
Yes.
Right.
Which is what I wanted.
Right. And you can hear it in some of the music, like some of the videos I see now. There are a lot of Christian rappers out now, and they going hard in the paint with it, you know. And from my perspective, is individuals like you who 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago kind of laid the groundwork to be able to push that message through.
Yes.
And people can say Christian, I say spiritual, because I don't like to put a title on it because
it's the same thing for me,
Right.
because once it grew into something more, it became a problem for a lot of my Christian following because there's like a limited range on our content, you know. But having nominations and different awards and other things definitely showed that I explored other blessings that God brought to me, and now everything has come full circle, man.
So how was you when you first actually started playing on the piano and could make something that you understood was music?
11 is when I asked, we were going to this church, and my mom pulled up to this church, my dad, my 2 sisters, and there was a keyboard and this man playing the drums, and they was juking, and it was cool. I didn't really understand what they were saying, but I'm like, okay, there's an instrument there that is not being used. And I'm just staring at the keyboard, which is what I want to play. I don't have one at home. You know, there's one sitting right there. Nobody's playing it. Then ended up to do it from the drums, ended up coming up and preaching. So it was the pastor playing the drums. So it was that type of situation, which I liked. So afterwards, he was one of those pastors that was like, I want to meet everybody. So we stood, and by the time we met him, met my mom, met my dad, introduced me, and I was like, I want to play the keyboard. You know, nobody played, you know, so my family definitely laughs, and Molly, you know, kind of pulled me back. I'm like, I'm saying, nobody played it. Y'all got a nice one right there, whatever. He said, look, son, if y'all come back and you dedicate it, you could play that keyboard as much as you want. And I played it for the next 11 years. I became minister of music that year and was playing just chords, and I made my ministry like prophetic. So the chords that I was making was to have a conducive atmosphere for like the preaching of the word, the mourning of loss, the healing of the heart. By the time people came to church, they wasn't wanting nothing that they could get outside of the church.
Right.
So that caused me to focus on the sacred chords, the progressions and the words that brought refreshing waves to the tumultuous life that everybody would go into. And that's what I focused on. And a lot of people appreciated me for that. So it's like kind of being able to go a lot of ways, but I became like a doctor in music, which isn't popular, but it lasts because people will always be wounded.
You're talking about using sound to heal.
Yes, messages.
Right.
I think the biggest pain inside of any type of trauma is the lonely dynamic. The fact that this is happening to me. It's a million cars on the road, and I got in an accident and hurt my back. You know, it can make you question the cosmos, if you will. It can make you question, like, how did that happen or whatever. So, but if something about if your neck is up or if your back is hurting, and somebody like, that happened to me 2 weeks ago. It's something about that eases some of the pain psychologically somehow, because you know that you weren't in it alone, especially if they offer a remedy from experience.
And I think that's something that we need a lot more of, because I'm glad you worded it that way. I worded it this way, that it's hurt people and healed people.
That's all I ever knew.
And an explanation of why people are doing what they're doing. But there's the second part, which is healed people heal.
You said use music. And music is definitely it. But sometimes the keyboard will be broke at church. And it's still like 150. No, I've been changed. That's music, but that's sound. Like somebody in the back will say, all right, now that's what I've been waiting for.
Right.
Like that's my environment. It's not you got somebody stumping and people using things for instruments. Even the fans making music. It's something that was emotional about that. But I was young and expressive and eclectic in that environment. So once I had an instrument, which was a tool where I could select patches, pads, xylophones, strings, pianos, or any type of tone that just like made that environment go more, I became addicted to just like intensifying it, like spiritual experience, which is like, I don't know, it was something about in there, bro. I feel like I could have done anything when I was in there. And that's because of the atmosphere.
Let me move forward because when we were talking, you talked about your trip to the motherland.
Yeah, man.
Right? And so can you make that connection that you just made to music and how you connected it?
So I wrote this song at church. All the glory belongs to you. All the glory belongs to you, oh God. All the glory belongs to you. All the glory belongs to you, oh God. And people just like say, man, we love when you sing that song. So I put it on that album. Went crazy. So it became like the theme in Africa, and I did not know it. I did not know. I'm talking about every church, which is everybody. Of course, they doing everything, but on Sunday, they mom like, come, we go to worship, and they going down, and they in there singing, all the glory belongs to you. So the kids were like looking up and seeing my image as the worship symbol, and that was the song. So I became like that voice, and they could definitely attest. So that's how Africa was just the seed. I'm 16. I go through everything. I get the mainstream situation. Any album I'm drop, everybody's just trying to find out how is Molly sound. That's because Nigeria is like, Molly, swipe.
Right.
And I'm like, well, where is this coming from? Oh, you just sold like this many streams in Nigeria, and then like continuing. On what songs? All I have to give in Yahweh. All I have to give in Yahweh. Like, oh, it's really crazy. So they've been supporting me. I got an invite by somebody to come out there and to Ghana, Pastor Stein, to this church that was such a blessing, and it healed me because it unlocked me. Now, it happened fast-paced like it does in my life. So you kind of think that your parents and your family is like prepared to go places with you, especially if you arrive. But sometimes the job don't be down to let you, experience things with your family like that last minute. So my family wasn't there, just me and my DJ. And when I got off of the plane, they said, welcome home. And that's exactly what it was. I didn't have to do nothing. I went into some building with a carpet watching TV while they got my luggage for everybody that I was with. Then, they knew me every place that I was, and it was unreal. Once I met the prophet Gideon, it was different. It was different. He had the whole thing prepared, but he was like, Molly, we need you to promote it because Africa does not know or believe that you're actually here. So they're filming me in the airport. They're saying, like, Molly's here, but people are denying it, that it's real because of how much it means to them. I had no idea. It was like meeting a long-lost friend, which was a continent.